Okay, boxing fanatics, welcome to the 34th episode. Today I'm delighted to be joined once again by Mr. Oscar Pick as we discuss, well, Joshua Buatsi claiming a majority decision over Zach Parker at the Co-op Arena in Manchester last night. Um, in what was quite a scrappy fight, quite a scrappy affair, not crazy amounts of action. Um, and ultimately, yeah, Buatsi being given the decision in what many believe was quite controversial. I guess that's the biggest talking point here. I mean, a lot of people adamant that Buatsi did not win the fight. I remember watching the commentary and they were adamant as well that Buatsi had not won that fight. I think Carl Frampton gave, Buatsi like 2 rounds or something like that. But whatever the case, Buatsi gets the win. And yeah, so Oscar, what's your initial thoughts to last night?
Yeah, I mean, I was just as shocked as most people when the scorecards were read out. I thought there'd been, a bit of interesting scoring, shall we say, throughout the night. Obviously, don't know if you watched the Liam Cameron Troy Jones fight, but yeah, as much as I love Liam Cameron and as much as I thought it was a great, all action fight, I did think that Cameron was ultimately fortunate to come away with the win. Troy Jones was aggressive. He was relentless, and I thought he probably done enough to claim that one. But it wasn't, the worst result you've ever seen. Whereas with Joshua Buatsi, Zach Parker, I really could not understand how the judges scored that for Buatsi. To be honest, I think I wasn't scoring it round by round, but
Mhm.
I would have struggled to find more than 2 rounds to give Buatsi throughout that whole fight. And you're right, it was a scrappy fight. It was ugly. Certainly
Mhm.
not one that, we'll be going back to watch anytime soon. But I think, you got to remove that from your thought process when you score in a fight. I think, a lot of these judges, like, you can't kind of use that as an excuse. I remember actually Ian John Lewis, who's obviously a very notorious name in the sport,
Oh yeah.
when with the Josh Taylor Jack Catchall fight where he submitted that
Mm.
woeful scorecard. He actually jumped on a podcast quite soon after, and he was actually attempting to justify that scorecard by saying, "Oh, look, it was just a boring fight." He was, he was saying, "Oh, there weren't a lot of action, like it was hard to score." And I'm thinking to myself, "You've got a job to do there. Like, you can't just sit there and enjoy the fight and act like a fan. You're actually
Mm.
being paid to be, objective judges." And I didn't see a shred of objectivity on Saturday night. I mean, you know, I don't know whether it's incompetence or
Mm.
corruption. We've been saying it for years, haven't we? Like, there's got to be something in the water. There's got to be something going on behind the scenes because I think this goes beyond incompetence for me. I don't know what your interpretation of it is, but I just can't understand how you'd score that for Buatsi. I wouldn't refer to myself as an expert of boxing, but I'd say I know the sport well enough to see when a fighter's kind of clearly, winning a fight. And at no point really did I see Buatsi do enough to convincingly claim a round in that fight. As I said, you can maybe edge 1 or 2 rounds to him, but ultimately, I thought Zach Parker, for all his, sort of spoiling and clinching, and I thought
Mm.
that was kind of excessive, and he was pushing his luck a little bit with that. I was actually surprised that the ref Michael Alexander didn't at
Mm.
least have a stern conversation with him. Uh, or I mean, a lot of people would have said that he should have docked a point, to be honest, which I
Mm.
wouldn't have. I wouldn't have had much complaints about that, to be honest. I thought he probably done enough clinching to maybe have a point taken off. Um, but again, you have to, look at what he was doing in between those clinches. Ultimately, his movement, his switch hitting style, his sort of awkwardness. This was all, these are all things that were allowing him, in my opinion, to sort of build a handy lead for himself. I thought Buatsi looked very one-dimensional, to be honest.
Mm,
Like, for all these years we've been hyping Buatsi up, and I think I've been guilty of that. I was one of these ones who sort of expected him to, win that Callum Smith fight quite comfortably, and
yeah.
obviously looked a bit daft afterwards when we saw what happened. But yeah, I've always felt with Buatsi like there was something about him. Like I felt like there was something special there. And I thought before this Zach Parker fight, I knew what Zach Parker would bring to the table. He'd be awkward, he'd be moving around a lot.
Mm,
But I thought that the aggression of Buatsi, would be enough to at least put a dent in Zach Parker, maybe even stop him. That's what I was thinking ahead of the fight. And I was expecting Buatsi to, actually cut off the ring and try and nullify that movement of Zach Parker. And there was just none of that. I thought he was quite passive, if anything, and he just kind of allowed Parker to make it, the fight that he wanted it to be. And there was just no real urgency from Buatsi to kind of stamp his authority on the fight. So, in my opinion, Zach Parker won it hands down. I thought there was absolutely no question about that. And obviously, when the scorecards were read out, I could hardly be surprised because I know what British scoring is like, and obviously scoring in general. I know what to expect now. But yeah, it was just one of those ones. And the frustrating thing about it is these judges are just gonna go about their business like nothing's happened. They're probably gonna, you know, they'll probably judge another fight in a week or two, and they'll have no sort of punishment, and they won't be expected to, at least attempt to justify their scoring. So yeah, it's a massive problem, and we speak about it every week. It seems that the scoring of fights, but no one is willing to do anything about it. So I guess it's business as usual.
mm. Interesting. I find it interesting that you mentioned the Jack Catterall, Josh Taylor fight, the first one. I think there was definitely shades of that. It kind of reminded me of that as well because that first fight was quite scrappy as well. Obviously, there was less on the line. I mean, I think that was undisputed, wasn't it? So that was even worse. But yeah, a very sloppy fight, and yeah, I agree with Buatsi. I was really disappointed in Buatsi. It's been a while since I've been. Well, I say a while. I mean, I thought his performance against Willie Hutchinson wasn't bad. I feel like he went to the body nicely in that fight. I thought he beat Willie Hutchinson pretty convincingly. I don't know what the split decision was all about in that fight, so that was a good performance. The Callum Smith fight was also a good performance as well, even, despite losing. So I mean, Buatsi's got the talent, but yeah, I mean, it's so one paced. For me, he kind of looks slow and just sluggish, and I don't know, it just yeah, really just did not look sharp at all. I just don't know what he was trying to do. I mean, is he trying to pot shot? Is he trying to? I don't know. It's like he was overthinking in there basically. He was just overthinking throughout the fight, and it's really disappointing because I do feel like Buatsi has a lot of talent, and Olympic bronze medalist. Was touted to do a lot of good things, and his career has really not gone to plan at the moment. And last night, I mean, yeah, a lot of people do think he got away with one. I'm just gonna play devil's advocate here. For me, the biggest issue here is actually, well, it's not the biggest issue, but one thing that I can understand why some people, maybe are not too annoyed is that I do feel like Parker is a massive spoiler. To be fair, I've watched him in several fights. Every time I watch him, it doesn't matter who he's fighting, if it's poor opposition, good opposition. He's always jumping in, holding, and going to the canvas. It's horrible to watch. To be honest, I have to be honest. It's just horrible to watch. I think he's got talent, Parker, but I do feel like he's quite hard to watch sometimes. He should have had a point deducted yesterday, and he reminded me of like Lawrence Okolie, like the light heavyweight slash super middleweight version of Lawrence Okolie, who'd like hit a combination, a 1-2, and then he'd jump straight in. And I'm sorry, that's not a good watch. That's not a good watch. So I'm trying to be balanced here. Saying that, Buatsi didn't do much either. So it was like, Parker definitely looked like he had the more eye-catching shots, even though, he he was falling to the canvas and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it, it was what it was. We don't want to watch that again, do we? We don't want to watch that again. According to the punch stats, though, I mean, most people think Parker won anyway, but I've seen online that he did outland Watson. I think it's 7 out of the 10 rounds. What do you think about statistics and maybe even AI? I mean, are we overcomplicating the scoring of boxing a little bit? Because it's so objective. It's not objective. It's so subjective. Sorry, so subjective. People want different things. People evidently these judges, rate different things. But obviously, we have to factor in, the home fighter. They always get the rub of the green. We have to remember Buatsi was the A side in this fight. And I mean, you mentioned Liam Cameron. That was his. I mean, that was his first fight of Queensberry as well, wasn't it? So the two kind of new boys, they got the benefit of the doubt, so to speak. But what do you think about like scoring? Like, why is this happening all the time in boxing? You know, is there something in the water, like you're saying? Or, should we introduce an AI judge? Because I remember seeing the AI scoring of Tyson Fury versus like Alexander Usyk. I think first and second fight. I thought it was pretty spot on, to be fair. So I'm thinking if AI is getting right, they might not, I don't know, maybe the time is to come for an AI judge, maybe one AI judge and two human judges, maybe, just to kind of shun the spotlight a little bit and not let these judges get away with certain things. What do you think about that? I mean, basically, do we need a change to the way we score boxing?
Yeah, I think first of all, we just need to kind of take this mentality of, oh, I don't like his style, out of the equation. Because obviously, as you say there, like Zach Parker, yes, he was spoiling a little. Well, obviously weren't the prettiest performance. I can see that myself. But ultimately, this is an aspect of how certain fighters can win boxing matches. I think kind of removing any bias, you have to look at what Zach Parker was doing in those rounds,
Mm,
away from the clinching, and say he was outboxing Buatsi. That for me, sums up what happened on the night. He outboxed him.
mm,
Um, it's the responsibility of the ref to, uh, issue warnings or dock points if he feels it necessary. But
mhm, mhm,
um, I think, yeah, I mean, again with Ian John Lewis, he kind of said he said after that Taylor Catchall fight, oh, I don't like his style or something along the lines of that. And I'm like, just you're not here to enjoy your time. You're here to objectively score a fight. And I think the sooner we kind of remove that weird mentality, the better. Obviously, yeah, there's a completely different conversation at play where it's like, are these judges trying to do the promoters certain favors? And I think there could definitely be an element of that. We've seen enough evidence over the years to suggest that not just with promoters, but even like sanctioning bodies. I think
mhm,
to put it into perspective, promoters and sanctioning bodies, while they don't always appoint the judges, they have a tremendous amount of influence over who are the judges and who are the referees. And, it doesn't take a genius to work out the conversations that they might be having with these judges behind the scenes. Um, whether they're given certain incentives for them to score a fight one way or whether they're just trying to convince them, this is this is what our plan is, and if a judge is happy to kind of facilitate that, then that's obviously a major issue. So obviously we can't say for sure whether that's the case. It would take a lot of investigative work to actually
mm,
expose that if it is going ahead. Um, we can only really go off what we're seeing, and I think certainly there needs to be more scrutiny of certain scorecards. I think the board, they should really penalise their judges a lot more. For the ones who do make complete and utter cock ups, want of a better word, I
mhm,
think they should actually publicly say, right, we've downgraded this judge from an A-star referee to
mm,
B-star, whatever it is, and then that shows the fans that they're actively doing something to try and improve the situation. At the minute, they're not doing anything. The only thing they've done in recent years that I can remember was, sack Ian John Lewis, and that was
mm,
Ian John Lewis. Obviously, he's a terrible, terrible judge, but he was kind of used as a bit of a scapegoat because they got so much backlash for the Josh Taylor Jack Catchall fight that they felt like
mhm,
they had to do something, and then that kind of forced their hand. But I would like to see a bit more consistency in terms of obviously not sacking the officials, but saying right, this official has to go through, X amount of time where they're scoring lower level fights, and they need to prove to us that they're competent enough to, score the major fights, and be involved in obviously, high profile events. So yeah, there's, I think there's so much that needs to change. None of it's probably going to happen, by the way. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's a huge conversation in terms of AI scoring and that side of things. I don't know whether that is the way to go. I mean, how many people truly understand how to score a fight? Because as you say, it can be subjective. Um, a lot of people will have their preferences. I mean, how often do we hear that phrase? Oh, it's about what you like. You know,
Mm,
that's like a go-to thing for the commentators, isn't it? It's
jeez.
like, oh, it's what you like. I'm like, no, like we don't want score boxing to be about what you like. It's about who's
Absolutely.
winning, who deserves to win a fight.
Mm.
And I felt like Zach Parker deserved to win that fight. I don't know. It's mental. Like there's, as I say, there's so many things involved that you've got to consider, and I don't know if it will ever change, to be honest, because there's, I don't know, there's just so much that needs to change for it for that to actually happen. Yeah. What are your thoughts on AI? Do you think that's the way to go?
I think because AI is becoming more prominent, I can actually see an AI judge coming in the future. I think it's going to come to a point maybe because I think that's the way the whole world is going. It will move into his AI. So I think I can see an AI judge, to be honest, just to move on with the times. I don't think they're going to get rid of human judges, but I can see there being a world where maybe three official judges and one AI judge, or two human judges and one AI judge. And obviously, we don't want to, we don't want people to lose their jobs and stuff like that. We don't want AI to take over the world, but when you're talking about incompetence, like what you're saying, then what else can we do? What else can we do? Most people do think that Parker won last night. The majority do. I mean, actually, funny enough, on the zone though, there was a lot of when it comes up like the live poll, what people think, it was quite close. Actually, funny
I
enough.
saw that. Yeah, that was. But to be honest, those polls tend to be a bit outlandish. Like I've
Mm.
seen that on the Zone and even Sky Sports before, where you see the fans' reactions and fan scorecards, and you think, how the hell has that happened? So I would kind of, you know, not pay that too much attention.
Hmm. Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. I guess maybe take it with a pinch of salt, I suppose. I do want to make a point about Parker. I mean, I don't know if you saw this fight, but I think several years ago he fought a guy called Daryl Williams in 2018
Yeah,
to capture the British
yeah.
title, and I think a lot of people think that's a controversial win. So it's funny how it's gonna come, I don't know, full circle in a way. I mean, I guess, but again, it's not about revenge or anything like that. I mean, it's like you summed up pretty nicely. It's who deserves to win on the night. Most people think he deserved to win last night, so that's it. But moving on, whether it's right or not, Buatsi is one, and the talk is that he's going to face the winner of Benavides versus Yard. I think Benavides is going to be a massive. I do want to make a point about the odds actually with this fight. It's funny. There's 2 weeks in a row now where Wardley, the other Parker was a massive favourite and he got beaten. And this time round, Buatsi was a massive favourite, and I guess in many people's eyes, he should have got beaten. So it's been a weird couple of weeks for the bookies, to be fair, because it's been proper like strong on the A side, and it hasn't turned out that way at all. Anyway, what was I say? Yeah, Buatsi to face the winner of Yard, Callum Smith. What do you think about Yard versus David Benavides? I mean, based on that performance, I definitely wouldn't back him against Benavides. Yards, I'm not sure. Maybe Yard him. Maybe they need each other more than ever now, based on that, because Yard had that shaky win. His last fight was a shaky win. And then I don't think he has much chance against Benavides. I mean, he might prove me wrong. But yeah, Buatsi against Benavides or Yard. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think he'll get the winner. I just can't see that happening because, well, for a start, I agree with you. I can see Benavidez winning that fight. And I think what they'll do is they'll make the Yard Buatsi fight with Yard having lost and Buatsi coming off this Parker fight. And yeah, it's still a marketable fight, but let's be honest, there's a lot of luster that's been removed from this matchup now.
Mm,
With
yeah.
Buatsi, with that performance, I don't know, like it's a strange one because the thing is, I see Buatsi in that fight last night, and I think you're not ready for. I can't see him winning a world title, for example. He's not
Mm,
beating Benavidez, he's not beating Bivol, but with Yard, it's an interesting fight. Like it's annoying because it shouldn't really be because Buatsi doesn't really deserve that opportunity. Like as harsh as that sounds, he shouldn't have won that fight on Saturday. So for him to walk straight into a Yard fight, earn a decent amount of money,
mm,
I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about it. But regardless of any of that, it's still probably a competitive fight on paper.
mm.
It just is. Obviously, it should have happened really when, maybe a few years ago. We've been talking about it for so many years. It's
Yeah,
just never
yeah,
happened.
yeah,
But
yeah,
they can still sell it. It's still a sellable fight. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
as I say, there, it's probably a competitive fight. As you say, maybe they need each other now more than ever.
Mm. I think so. I think so. I mean, based on their last performances, yeah, I think they've both kind of lost a step in some ways, to be honest. And I think it's just very commercially viable, this fight, to be honest. They're both somewhat big names in the UK. I just can see it happening. I think maybe that's just the plan all along, and maybe that's just the plan all along. Whatever Yard does against Benavidez, I think everyone knows it's going to be a very tough ask to beat Benavidez. So Yard Buatsi, especially they're both under Queensbury now as well. I mean, it'd be a shock if it doesn't happen. Really, I mean,
Mm.
it surely has to happen. As for Buatsi not becoming a world champion, I mean, you know what? I wrote this in my preview, in my newsletter. For me, I feel like it depends where the belts go because I think Bivol Beterbiev or Beterbiev, they're gonna retire not too long, and that could mean the belts get fragmented. And you never know, it might be like one of those situations where I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. But imagine like Buatsi Yard fighting for a vacant belt or something like that. I wouldn't even rule that out. If that was to happen, down the line or something like that, because the two top guys, I don't think they're going to be around much longer, to be honest. So, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, Buatsi Yard should have happened a few years ago, but yeah, I think it's they need each other. They basically need each other more than ever, and it's going to do well. It's going to do well. They'll probably be on pay-per-view because it's been boiling for so long. Um, so I guess we'll look forward to that somewhat. I would have looked forward to that a few years ago much more. I mean, I used to think Buatsi would beat Yard. I thought Buatsi had the boxing skills to beat Yard, but now I'm thinking, you know what? I think it's actually really 50-50 to be fair. It's a really 50-50 fight. Let's just touch on Zach Parker before we finish. I mean, Zach Parker, obviously very harsh on him. Didn't get the result he needed or wanted, even though most people believe he did. He's always been kind of floating between 168, 175. I don't think he's the biggest guy in the division. I mean, I thought Buatsi looked way bigger than him yesterday, way bigger. But yeah, what should Zach Parker do next? Should he? I mean, where's the landscape better? 168. I assume he can still make 168. Should he bother 175? Where does he go from here, basically?
I mean, annoyingly, he's kind of in no man's land at the minute because and this is just the way boxing is, isn't it? Like a fighter like Zach Parker, he needs to work almost twice as hard as other fighters to get his opportunities because no one really is going to want to fight him. Like no one's going to put their
Mm,
hand up and say, I want to fight Zach Parker because they know it's going to be a difficult night regardless of the result, and he's not going to make them look good. It'd be very hard to beat Zach Parker in, really stunning fashion. So, and also these promoters aren't really going to be that keen to work with him, I don't think, because he's not very TV friendly, and yeah, he's just not a
mm,
very valuable commodity in the business side of boxing. So, I think he is kind of in no man's land, and I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of just fades away really through lack of opportunities because, well, for those reasons, no one's going to fight him, and no one's really going to want to pay him the money that he probably wants to fight on DAZN or wherever.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, in terms of opportunities, if he can get them, it does seem like light heavyweight is a place to be because you've got all those domestic names.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, just on that card alone, you had Lyndon Arvo, beat Bradley Ray. You had Liam Cameron and Troy Jones. I mean, Zach Parker against Brad Ray, for example, like that's a matchup that kind of makes sense because you got two guys who lost pretty competitive fights, or I didn't think Buatsi Parker was particularly competitive, but
Mhm,
yeah, it's these are the kind of matchups that Queensbury might have a look at and be like, well, we feel like we sort of have to give Parker another fight. Let's just chuck him in with, you know, Brad Ray or Troy Jones.
mhm, mhm,
It's one of them ones, I think. I can't see him getting a particularly big fight, big opportunity. So yeah,
mhm.
he just has to kind of take what he gets, really.
And that's the brutality of boxing, isn't it? It's we've seen it so many times. It's like if you get that win, you're on to bigger and better things. You know, and then it's like if you lose, like it's almost like this happens in boxing so much. Like today, for example, there's so much of a stir, like controversy last night. Oh, Parker should have won. And let's be honest, in 2, 3 weeks, everyone's gonna forget about it. It's
Yeah.
crazy. That's what happens all the time. It's a controversy, and then people just forget about it. And people move on. Then it's the next show, the next fight. So I do feel for Zach Parker. I do feel. I mean, it's a very unjust sport sometimes. Yeah, whatever your opinion is on last night, it's yeah, it's brutal. It's a very tough sport. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for listening to this episode. Um, as always, if you like this episode, please like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.